Ahysen Nation, good morning. I'm Johnny Ahysen, and we're so excited to have, he's making his inaugural appearance on the big Ahysen Nation program.
Yes, sir.
This is seen all over the world in several countries.
Oh, wow.
You believe that?
You make me nervous.
Yeah. Mayor Pro Tem LaMont Cole is with us today, and your name has been associated with so many positive events
Yes, sir. Thank you.
all over the city. We're so excited that you're here with us today, and education, of course,
Of
is
course.
a hot button of yours.
That's right. That's right. I'm a 25-year educator. I've been in the game 25 years, been a teacher, assistant principal. Now I serve as chief academic officer of a small network of charter schools. And so I'm just excited about education, about the work we do with young people each and every day in this community and all around the globe. And so just happy to be here today, and thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. You've got so many great events coming up, and two particular. One's just right around the corner, as a
That's
matter of
right.
fact. And that is going to be the class dismissed program. And what is that about? This is not the first time that's happened.
No, this is not. This is actually our 8th year of celebrating educators here in the general Baton Rouge area. But this year we wanted to do something a little bit more special. We recognize teachers have had a challenging 2-year period as a result of COVID and some of the challenges that COVID presented for teachers in the classroom and trying to go virtual. And so we're having a teacher fair at the Red Stick Social, located at 1503 Government Street, which is at the corner of 14th Street and Government. We have rented out the entire 5 floors. There's going to be bowling. There are going to be games being played. We're going to have gifts for teachers, door prizes, and so we just want to celebrate educators, all of those who work in the profession and provide support and resources for students. We want to celebrate them on Monday, and so all educators, of course, are allowed in free, and those who want to come out and support educators, there'll be a small fee, because we recognize that never before in the history of the world has one generation of people been able to move to the next without the influence, the support, and the work of the teacher. And so while they may not have been officially titled teacher, we recognize that educating people has been a pathway for the future since the beginning of time. And so as we have organized teachers in buildings, public, private, parochial, charter, most of which are going to end their school week this week, we need to celebrate them and let them know the community appreciates and supports them. We have so many sponsors who have signed up to support this initiative. Mayor Broom's office, Baton Rouge Police Department, CSRS, Teach 225, the Broad Innovative Marketing Firm, and the list goes on and on and on. Kimball Properties, Emerging Methods, the list goes on and on and on about the people who have signed up. Wampo Industries, people have signed up to support this initiative because they want to be involved. They want to make sure teachers know they care, they support them. They are thankful that teachers are still in the profession, still fighting every day to make sure students get a high quality education. And so we just want to celebrate them on Monday, and we're asking the whole entire city to come out and show support. Even if you just stop by for a few minutes to say hello to teachers you know. They're going to be teachers who are as young as 22 and 23, and some who are experienced as 60 and 70 who are going to be in the building to celebrate with us.
Wow, that is. Now, is this restricted to East Baton Rouge Parish?
It is not. Baton Rouge and surrounding areas, St. Helena, Ascension, West Baton Rouge, West Feliciana, East Feliciana, St. Helena, wherever you are in the general area and the listening area, if you want to come and celebrate us, we ask you to do so. If you are an educator and you want to come to the city of Baton Rouge, listen, no one, I think, in the country celebrates educators the way we do here in the city, and we just want to make sure, and we only do it once a year, because we recognize the school year ends at the end of May here in our parish, and so we want to celebrate teachers, recognize them. Zachary, Baker, Central, come on out, let's have a good time.
Is there a fee?
No, there's no fee for teachers. There is a fee for non-educators. If you work in the education profession, myself and my partner, Terrell Jackson, we're going to be moving around for the remainder of the week, dropping off credentials to all educators, bus drivers, secretaries, cafeteria workers, paraprofessionals, anyone who works in the education profession. We're going to be moving around this week, visiting schools to say hello, dropping off credentials, as well as a few gifts to educators to let them know how much we appreciate them.
Now, I'm looking on Eventbrite.com. We have that website pulled up.
Yes, sir.
It is only $10.
Only $10 for non-educators.
For non-educators?
For non-educators, it's only $10, and it is a donation to the cause. So this is going to continue to allow us to provide resources at the beginning of every school year. We give away school supplies and resources for students. We also give away school supplies and resources for educators. So your $10 is going to go to help us to continue our initiatives to do these things, to remain positive, to support educators, and to make sure our students have what they need in the classroom to be successful.
Now that's going to be on Monday.
That's on Monday,
The 23rd.
May 23rd, 5 o'clock p.m., 1503 Government Street. Again, it's at the corner. It's the big 5-story building at the corner of 14th Street and Government Street, 1503 Government, and we're going to be there celebrating, and we look forward to seeing everybody.
So as a former teacher and a former educator, what do you see as one of the bigger challenges for the youth today?
I think the biggest challenge the youth face today is too many distractions. There's Twitter, there's Facebook, there's Instagram, there's Tumblr. There are a whole host of other social media platforms that I'm not even aware of. There are far too many distractions inside the house where students are isolated. Now, they're interacting with other people, but they're isolated. I think that's the biggest challenge, so that when they get into school environments, there are challenges in terms of engaging students in the process of learning. I think that's the biggest challenge. And with so many outside influences, it's hard sometimes for a teacher to engage students in a way that is going to reach them, turn a light bulb on, and help them move from one level to the next. I feel that's the biggest challenge. And so we in the field of education have to be creative. We have to think about how we bring those platforms and how we bring those other resources into the classroom and use them to help students reach their full potential. I think also, as technology changes, as the world changes, we have to make sure we're making the right type of shifts in order to engage students in the type of work that we know is necessary for them to be successful. And so again, the biggest challenge is too many outside influences, in my opinion.
Let me go into another direction. What is the biggest challenge for our teachers today?
The biggest challenge for our teachers today is that the cutting-edge research-based strategies that are needed in order to reach and meet the needs of young people are ever-changing. As soon as you get comfortable using one strategy, there's another one. As soon as you get used to using the next one, there's another one. When we think about what COVID did in this society, and we shifted from face-to-face communication, face-to-face instruction, to virtual instruction, to hybrid instruction, to asynchronous and synchronous instruction, where some kids were at home, some students were at school, teachers were at school. That's a whole new world that we had to adapt to very, very quickly. And so there have been some learning gaps, there have been some learning loss, but I think the key is to always do what we've done since the beginning of time, is identify where students are struggling, be very clear about what they need to learn, identify where they're struggling, and then make sure we put the right supports in place for them to be successful. And then also with teachers, if we recognize that teachers are struggling in terms of what strategies to use in order to be effective with students, we have to put the right supports in place to help them as well. And so it's no one size fit all. We have to think about how do we diversify what we're doing, how we differentiate learning for young people, and how we make sure every single child reaches his or her full potential. And then once they do, put them in a place to go a step further. And so I think the challenges for kids, again, outside influences, the challenges for teachers is staying up on the cutting edge research that we recognize is going to be successful and beneficial for young students.
I grew up a lot. I'm much older than you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Don't say it so don't say it so affirmative like that. When I grew up, we got paddled in school. And when we got paddled in school, we got a spanking at night because the school, I remember vividly, and this only happened once, when Dad got off of work, he said, I'm going to give you a chance to explain yourself, but you're going to get a spanking. I'm like, Dad, you just got home. I didn't do anything. And he goes, yeah, the school called your mother today and you had to get paddled in school. So I'm going to give you a chance to tell me about it, but you're going to get spanked. We don't misbehave in school. So I guess speak, as all of us do, and read and things like that to elementary and middle schools. And I was in middle school in Gonzales and several years ago, and we were standing outside. I was standing outside the door between classes because I spoke to a couple of different classes. And the girls were saying things in the hallway to girls that the guys didn't say to guys when I was growing up. And I asked the teacher, I said, you're not going to... And she pulled me into her office or into the classroom, and she said, a lot of us are afraid of our students. That's That's a big
Unfortunate,
deal. That's a problem. Is that a real deal?
For some, it is a challenge for some in some education spaces.
As a student, I'd be afraid of you.
Yeah. Well, students who work in an environment where I work have no other choice but to follow the rules, policies, and procedures that we set forth. Because I'm not going to tolerate any level of disrespect towards adults. It's not going to happen. And again, I've never, in 25 years of being in education, never had challenges with students. Because it's about how you engage, how you set expectations. That's really what it's about. So I set high expectations in terms of how we're going to engage, how we're going to interact with each other, and I demand that you respect yourself first. Respect yourself first, because if you respect yourself, then you'll respect me. And in the reverse, I do the exact same. I respect them. But again, you teach children how they're supposed to interact with adults. And oftentimes, because we have young parents who may need some support in terms of their parenting skills, we see students who come to school and sometimes don't know how to conduct themselves when they're interacting with adults, because oftentimes outside of the school building, they don't necessarily interact with adults in the most appropriate way possible. So when you come into the school building where I work, we have to take some time and develop those social skills so that you know how to interact. Once we do that, I don't have any problems. Once we set the expectations, once you're consistent in the way you interact and deal with young people, you're not going to have any problem. I don't see that happening in a lot of places. We just assume they're going to come and know how to conduct themselves the way we did when we were younger. But remember, when we were growing up, we had true communities, true neighborhoods, where everyone knew each other, and so that social interaction happened a great deal outside of the school, such that when you walked in, it continued. But remember what I said earlier, too many outside influences that keep students inside the house and keep them from that traditional face-to-face social interaction that we're used to. And so what happens, you see kids show up at school who say anything, who interact with teachers inappropriately, and then teachers themselves, because of all the laws, regulations, and policies, and now the cell phones that kids pull out and record. I'm not afraid of any of that. I am going to talk to young people and teach them to do the right things no matter what. And then before we do that, we're going to sit down and have conversations with their parents. Every summer, we spend the entire summer in the organization I work with sitting down, talking with families about expectations. What do you expect from us as it relates to educating your child, and then what we expect from you as it relates to supporting us in educating your child. Once we have that conversation face to face, and you know that I care about your child's future and what happens, we don't have any problems. I can say and do what is necessary in order for you to be successful. And sometimes that doesn't mean I'm always nice. Sometimes you have to be firm. Sometimes you have to make sure they understand what is expected of them, and sometimes you have to let them know, if you don't do what I am asking you to do, the consequences are going to be ones you don't like. And so rather you face the consequences as a result of doing something undesirable, or you do what I ask you to do, and we're going to have a peaceful, beautiful, productive day. That has always worked for me, not had problems. I would love, if schools are having challenges, to go around and have these types of conversations, because I promise you, it works. It works. Positive engagement with people works. Positive engagement with young people, it works. And so that is what we do. But to your point, that is an unfortunate circumstance in many school buildings where teachers are afraid to interact with young people because of fear of how they may respond. I think that's extremely unfortunate. I see it happening not only here in Baton Rouge, but all over the country as I travel through and doing this work. But I think there are ways we can address that and ways we can change that.
Well, you're talking about growing up in the neighborhood and the community that we used to have that we don't have today, and it's not necessarily all crime-ridden. It's everybody's inside.
That's right.
On these devices.
That's right.
But I mean, I remember my parents giving our neighbors' parents permission to spank me.
That's right.
At their house and misbehaving.
That's right. Listen, one of my best friends who is here in the studio with us today is Terrell Jackson. I know his daughter. He knows my family. If my children are with him, he knows that he is free to reprimand or do whatever he needs to do while they are with him, the same way he would do it with his own child. And I think we have to have positive interactions and relationships with each other such that we can choose. Listen, they say it takes a village to raise a young person. And so we have to be very clear about who we have in our village. And for me, I have a strong network of friends who are around me so that when we are interacting with each other, we recognize that our interactions also lead to how we interact with each other's children. And so we can raise our village together. I think we've gotten away from that. As you said a while ago, we lost trust in each other. We oftentimes think people are not going to have the best interest of our children in their hearts such that we do. But I think we have to take, again, it goes back to those social interactions, getting to know each other, removing the barriers, and then talking about those things that we know are important and making sure that what's important to you is important to me. And if it's important to us, it has to be important to our children so that when we're engaging, everybody's on the same page.
Well, you've hit a hot button for me because I'm a product of public education, public schools, and you keep saying social interaction,
That's right.
I know some students and some adults that were homeschooled, and these kids are brilliant. There's nothing wrong with homeschooling, except, in my opinion, and homeschoolers will argue with me about this, I feel like they miss that non-textbook side of the education, and that's social interaction.
That's social interaction,
skills.
that's right.
Developing social, and homeschoolers do get together in groups, no question. And the homeschool educations, if it's done right, that's not at question about the information they're learning. But that thing that you can't get in a textbook is how do you resolve conflict when there's conflict?
That's right.
The social interaction skills miss something huge when they are in-home educated as opposed to in a public facility.
The biggest thing they miss is understanding that nonverbal communication that you get when you're around other people, because there's a way we communicate with each other without having to verbalize our feelings, our thoughts, and our ideas. Oftentimes those who are in homeschool environments, which I recognize there is a need for some in that environment, but oftentimes when we interact socially, we learn how we respond to various different things as we interact with each other. I understand what makes you upset, what makes you laugh, how to engage with you in a way that's going to be peaceful. And you want to learn how to do that with as many different groups and different types of people as possible so that you become well-rounded and that you can interact and engage. And then you can learn, because the best teacher is the one you spend the most time with. So if it's not the organizing teacher in the classroom teaching me or on the computer teaching me, I learn a lot from my friends, the people I'm around, from experiences. And again, the social interaction is really about shared experiences. What type of experience can you and I have together, whether it be positive or negative? It's an experience that we shared that we now have a connection about, and as we matriculate through our lives, we can continue to refer back to those experiences, and then we learn about who we are, as you said, in a conflict, in an uncomfortable situation, in a situation where we find ourselves extremely happy. We recognize there are various different social emotions that we go through. And then when we think about kids who are in homeschool and who are in the house, we don't recognize some of the post-traumatic stress that they perhaps are suffering from and some of the mental therapy they may need in order to learn how to readjust as it relates to interacting with people in a face-to-face setting. And so I am all for face-to-face settings. Listen, whatever works for those who may need various different types of education, I still think there's nothing like a smile, a hug, a warm gesture to help someone feel better, a handkerchief to wipe a tear, lotion to make a young person feel better, a Band-Aid when someone has fallen and hurt their knee. These are all the social interactions that I think oftentimes a lot of young people miss as a result of being in the house too much. So I think, listen, we recognize that the greatest education group in this country was the class of 1972. As a result of the technology, Sputnik, and the things going into the world. And that group, if you look at the research around the world of the groups of who graduated in 1972 and the things they've been able to accomplish, Steve Jobs, 1972. When we think about the chairman and founder of Microsoft, 1972. And so when we start thinking about all of the individuals who've had a tremendous impact on the world, we go back and we think about what was going on in the 70s and the early 70s, and we think about what went on in the 50s and 60s where those people were growing up, and then we think about what's going on now. There's a huge disconnect in terms of that social interaction and what we were doing in terms of pushing each other forward. And so I think we have to figure out a way to include that in our processes. I think we have to figure out a way to understand that those things are vitally important. to the well-rounding of a young person. And then I think if we can start doing that, we'll see some changes to take place. And it'll have an impact on the crime we see taking place in our community.
That is fascinating about 1972. I never realized that.
Yeah, and don't listen to me. You can check the research, and you'll see that there are a number of people who graduated from high school in '72 who had a profound impact on the way we do things in this country today.
That is amazing. We're speaking with Mayor Pro Tem LaMont Cole, and you've got the big event coming up this weekend. We want to put that back on the screen. It's at the Red Stick Social, 5 o'clock Monday, not
Monday.
this weekend, after the
Monday,
weekend.
that's right.
Monday. You can go to Eventbrite, $10 for tickets, but educators, you're absolutely free. What's going to be going on there that day? Go ahead and give it to us again.
So we're going to have entertainment. We have 2 bands. We have Universal Language is going to be performing. We have the Michael Foster Project is going to be performing. We'll have a band inside and outside. We'll have 3 DJs. We'll have bowling. We'll have games that Red Stick Social, who is one of our lead sponsors, are setting up outside for teachers to compete against each other. It's a teacher fair, so to speak. We have a whole host of vendors who are going to come and give away gift bags to teachers, and then we're going to be giving away door prizes. We have a whole host of elected officials and those who are concerned about education who are going to come by and speak. The mayor is going to come by. State Representative Larry Sellers is going to come by. Our administrator of the SBA in this region, Ted James, is going to come by. Chief Murphy Paul is going to stop by to say hello. And a whole host of our sponsors who sponsored this event, who helped us secure the facility, they're going to come by as well to interact and to engage, and simply to say to educators in this region, thank you for what you do, recognizing without you, our society would be a much different place if we didn't have the impact, the influence, and the hard work and dedication of the educator.
Man, yeah, that is fantastic.
Yes, sir.
I do want to, and this is a little bit down the line,
A little
but
bit
not
down the
far.
road. That's right.
We have another event coming up that you guys are very involved in and you're passionate about, and this is Pedaling for Peace. It's
That's
the
right.
5th annual Pedaling for Peace, and tell us about that and where and when and how we can get involved in this.
Great. So about 5 years ago, myself and Danielle Sadawa, who runs Shoppers Values Foods here in the city of Baton Rouge, I was in the store, and she and I were having a conversation about some of the senseless crime that was taking place in our community, and we started talking about something we could do. And I told her, I said, listen, there is nothing too small or too big when it comes to trying to address the ills in our community. We see far too many people, not just young people, we see far too many people who are suffering as a result of violent crime. And so we got together and decided we wanted to do a bike ride where we would signify people from all walks of life, from all income brackets coming together as family and riding a bike to symbolize that we want to see peace in our community. We pitched the idea to the city. The mayor jumped on board, the police chief jumped on board, the sheriff jumped on board, the DA jumped on board, and so we have so many people who are connected to law enforcement, but in addition to that, we have so many community members who I see it and recognize it as a really good idea to say, hey, we say enough is enough. We want to see peace in our community, so we take a bike ride, we stop, we fellowship, and the idea is that when all of the people show up, we meet at 5355 Shoppers Value on Government Street. We pray before we ride, and then we ride a bike to Howard Park on Windburn. So you start on one side of the community where things look one way, and then we ride through the community so you can be exposed to some of the challenges and the conditions that take place in underserved communities. Then we go to Howard Park, we get off, and the key there is that everyone interacts with someone they don't know. Go make a new friend. Go have a conversation with someone you've never had a conversation with. Particularly, go and try to have a conversation with someone of different race, different background, different religion. Share some ideas. Talk about what's important to you. We give them very specific things we want them to talk about. Talk about what's important in your environment. We all want to live in safe environments with access to resources, healthy foods, and education at a high level. We all want that. Some of us have it in our community, some of us don't. So how do we all collectively work together so that we all have it in East Baton Rouge Parish? And so we start to have those conversations, share ideas. We pray for all of the victims who have suffered as a result of violent crime. We pray for all of the victims who've lost their lives as a result of violent crime. We pray for the families. We also pray for the individuals who may have evil in their mind as a result of something that has happened in there and to them or to one of their family members. And then we think about how do we move forward and what resources do we put in place so people can choose peace versus choosing violence. And so we do this bike ride. And I know a bike ride is not going to stop crime and it's symbolic in nature, but what it has done over the last 5 years, it has opened people's eyes to the conditions in our community and some of the challenges. And then more importantly, people start to recognize just because I live in an underserved community where access to the resources are different than where you live, doesn't mean I don't want the same thing, I don't care, and I don't have good ideas about how we can address these issues. And so that's what the bike ride is about. Again, tons of sponsors, so many to name. Some of the Entergy is a sponsor. Again, Mayor Broom's office is a sponsor. Again, Perfect 10 Productions is a sponsor. State Representative Larry Selders. All of my council colleagues have ridden in this bike ride every year. And again, this is not a black thing or a white thing because it's a diverse community of people who ride with us. And so when you look and you see the photos from years past, when you look and you see the videos from years past, you see families, young and old children, all riding different types of bikes. We have the street team from the Sheriff's Department and BRPD who lead us through the street as we shut down Florida Boulevard and Foster Drive as we ride bikes. It's a celebration of peace is really what it is. And so we've done it every year. This is our 5th annual. I'm excited about it. One year we did it, we had over 30 days of peace in this community, not one homicide. The first year we did it. And so we want to try to promote peace. We want to try to bring an end to some of this senseless violence, and we want to try to address some of the traumatic circumstances that folks have experienced and the trauma that they still experience as a result.
Friday, June
June 10th.
6 p.m. You see it on your screen right there. Going to meet at Shoppers Value Foods on Government Street, right over to Howell Park. Rest and fellowship and come
drink
back.
some water because it's going to be hot.
Water.
And come on back. That's right.
One of the biggest things, you may not know this about me, but I'm a commercial bus driver. And
Okay.
I drive just for fun. You know, when kids grow up and they want to be an astronaut or a fireman, I've always wanted to drive buses.
Okay. Okay.
And 15, 20 years ago, I got my CDL, and now I drive the motor coaches for Dixieland Tours. Mm-hmm. But before I did that, for 3 years, I drove cats.
Oh, really?
While I was working here.
Oh, wow, okay.
My early days at Channel 9 in 2005, 6, 7, I just did the morning show. Back then it was 5 to 9, and now it's 4:30 to 9. But when I got off at 9, I didn't have the other responsibilities that I've enjoyed now at Channel 9. So I went down to Cats and chatted with them, and I was a floater for people that were calling in sick and things. But I drove every route Cats had for 3 years, 4 days a week, 11 to 4.
Wow.
And some of the routes that I drove were, and I've been in Baton Rouge practically all my life, and some of the routes I drove gave me an appreciation for just how great I have it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying anything about the people that don't have it great. It's just you see another side of our community, and you go, how? In my case, it's like, how can I help? It's like one of the Scotland Avenue route that I drove a lot. We'd go down in the back, and these two little boys would throw mud at my bus all the time. They'd be humming mud at the bus and rocks. So I'd open the door and I went, y'all come here, and they wouldn't come to me, and I just giggled. So I started bringing a little pack of suckers from the grocery store and started giving them suckers if they didn't throw mud at my bus.
Right.
The bus ain't gonna get hurt from a mud daub, and most drivers would just drive off. But I often wondered what they were thinking. And this white guy driving the Cats bus. In fact, one lady, oh my gosh, she a little old lady that rode one of our routes. She's a little redheaded lady, a little walker, and she gets on behind me one day and puts her coins in, and or her card in, and she gets about 3 steps behind my back, and she goes, "I didn't know they had a white boy driving for the Cats." So I played with her. I said, "Oh, I'm not white, ma'am. I'm African American." She said, "Boy, don't play me." The whole route, she's just mouthing off, but it was so much fun. But in my case, like the bike ride will do, if you go on this bike ride, it will give you an opportunity to A, know how blessed you are, but also to B, to see the need in the community and find out where you fit in
That's
that
right.
solution.
That's right.
You know, where do I fit in the solution?
Listen,
You know what I'm saying?
there's a lot more good going on in our community than bad. I think when we watch different outlets and we see some of the bad going on, we oftentimes believe that's all that exists in the community. But there's a lot of good. The bike ride is a really good thing. It's a very peaceful event. It's a very fun event. It doesn't last all day. We start at 6 and we're back at Shoppers Value before 7:30. So it's something that parents can do with their kids. It's something that anyone who is healthy and chooses to exercise, they can come use this that evening as their exercise for the day. And it's a good, positive quality event. And again, it's promoting something I know we all want in our communities, and that's peace. And so I think when we start to think about what we see, what we want, we're more alike than we are not alike, right? We all want the same things. We want to live in safe environments where we can be comfortable in our homes, where our children can go outside and play and make friends and have a good time. I remember I used to go outside and run and play all day. We don't see children doing that as much anymore. But we want to promote, and sometimes as a result of that, we recognize some families in some areas of our communities feel like it's not as safe as it once was. But we need to get back to that. Anytime we've reached a point in our community where children are not safe when they go outside and play in their front yards or on the street where they live, then we have to think about what are we doing and what are we going to do to ensure that children are safe. And so this is an event that we want to promote that, and then we're going to continue to talk about the safety solutions that must be deployed in areas of high crime so that we can get back to a point where there's true peace in our community, no violence. And then once we have an extended period of time of peace in the community, we can then start talking about how do we engage young people in positive activities throughout their communities that are very similar to things we see happening all over, not just the city of Baton Rouge, but the state as well as the country in terms of positive activities and different activities so we can give kids and young people and families different experiences.
That is going to be on June 10th at 6 o'clock
6
in the
o'clock.
evening. It's going to be a great event. 5th annual Pedaling for the Peace.
5355 Government Street at Shoppers Value is where we'll meet. It would do nothing but make me go crazy if we had 10,000 people show up to ride bikes. That would be wonderful. Calling for 10,000.
Awesome. We've been visiting with Mayor Pro Tem LaMont Cole. You are such an incredible representative
Thank you,
of our
sir.
city.
Thank you for having me.
A very positive voice on the city council, and just a positive all-around man, and I hope you come back and see us.
Hey, anytime. I'll definitely come back. I enjoyed it.
That is
Thank
fantastic.
you.
All right, it wraps it up for another edition of the Big Asian Nation program, and we will see you tomorrow morning on 9 News This Morning. Until then, have a fantastic Tuesday and be safe. Goodbye, everybody.